Have you ever thought about where your produce comes from? Most grocery chains receive produce from various local and national farmers. In fact, there are about 3.4 million farmers in the United States today. But of that staggering number, only 45,000 are Black farmers. At the Better Buggy, we are a proud group of Atlanta-based Black-owned farmers, selling produce locally and nationwide. Our easy-to-navigate online platform makes it easy for you to make a one-time purchase or to simplify your life by subscribing to our weekly produce box. Whichever frequency you choose, you can order with confidence, knowing you'll receive 100% organic farm-fresh produce. If you're looking for a thoughtful gift for a loved one that they'd actually find useful, be sure to pop by our online store where you can snag a gift card your recipient can use to order their own produce and t-shirts. Ready to start supporting local Black-owned farms and making healthier food decisions? Visit thebetterbuggy.com now to start shopping.
There are mounting concerns over rising COVID cases in several states, even as vaccinations ramp up across the country. U.S. health officials warn a fourth COVID surge is on the horizon as the UK variant spreads nationwide. The head of the National Institutes for Health tells CBS this morning the variant is probably, quote, 70% more contagious and significantly more lethal even for young people. Dr. Bob Lahita is with me now to talk more about this. He is the director of the Institute for Autoimmune and Rheumatic Diseases at St. Joseph Health. He's also professor of medicine at Rutgers and New York Medical College. So, Dr. Bob, children accounted for nearly 1 in 5 U.S. COVID cases last week and joined the rising number of people that are suffering from long-term COVID symptoms. What do we know about the serious and long-term impacts the virus could potentially have on a child's health?
Yeah, Vlad, this is a great concern. I'll tell you why. Because in about 15% of children, there are lingering symptoms. We see lingering symptoms in adults to the tune of about 35%. And in some young patients, that is between the age, I would say, of 25 to, say, 40, we are seeing symptoms that linger in about 40% of patients. But the children are concerning. There are two syndromes that one sees. One is an acute infection, which makes the child sick, rarely winds up in the hospital. And then there's the second, which is the multi-system inflammatory syndrome, which we've all heard about, that can occur 6 weeks to 6 months after the child suffers the infection. The side effects that you see are fatigue, you see headaches, you see heart palpitations, and the child really complains of listlessness and brain fog. It's sort of like chronic fatigue syndrome that we've been seeing in adults for many, many years. And this is of great concern to all doctors, but particularly pediatricians.
So, Doctor, as you know, mass vaccination sites in North Carolina and Colorado were closed this week after some people experienced adverse reactions to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. What were those reactions, and is there any reason to worry?
Well, the reactions, Vlad, were disconcerting insofar as the patients became orthostatic, which means their blood pressures drop. This is often seen in vaccination sites. Some patients pass out because they are afraid of the needle, or the needle actually causes a vasovagal response. So you have a feeling of faintness, lightheadedness. Sometimes the patients actually pass out. They develop rapid breathing. They become diaphoretic, which means they become very, very sweaty. And the patient will say to you, "Hey, I don't feel good. I just got this shot and I better sit down." And that's why we keep them around for about 15 minutes after the injection. So these kinds of effects, for some reason, have been seen in various sites in the southern part of our country. And I don't know whether this is a mass effect or these are really the results of the J&J or the other injections that the patients have been getting.
So let me ask you about this, Doctor. There was an interesting op-ed in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend by Marty Makary, who works at Johns Hopkins. He's a professor of medicine at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. And he talked about herd immunity, and that he believes that while it's important for everyone to get vaccinated, he was very clear in his op-ed that everyone should be vaccinated. He does believe that that although vaccinated, I'm going to quote here, vaccinated immunity will prove more durable than natural immunity. And I think everyone should get vaccinated. But after a year of millions of COVID-19 cases, it's clear that reinfections are rare. Natural immunity is real and shouldn't be ignored. And this was sort of pushing back a little on Dr. Fauci's push for everybody to get vaccinated and the denial of this other type of immunity. What do you think about that?
Well, Vlad, this is a complicated issue. There are two kinds of immunity. We call it innate immunity and adaptive immunity. And when you're infected with the virus, you develop both humoral, that means antibodies, or cellular immunity. I shouldn't say or, it's and cellular immunity. And we scientists think that cellular immunity is just as good, if not better, than adaptive immunity. That means the presence of the antibodies. So whether you're infected or you get the vaccine, your immune response is very, very strong, with few exceptions. Your immune response, particularly the cellular immunity, which involves all sorts of killer T cells that are specific in your body for viral infections, those are raised very highly. We still advise after you've had the COVID-19 to get vaccinated because you can boost your immunity even higher by getting one of the vaccines, even after you've had the infection.
So I'm going to stop them right there. So as you can hear in the very beginning of the video, it was talking about the young. And that is something I am seeing in articles every time I do research on what's the latest on COVID-19 and who's getting it. It is overwhelmingly young people this time around that are ending up in the hospital. So Michigan is now the new epicenter of the COVID-19, where they have the most cases and it's surging there and everything. So this is CBS News, April 10th, 2021. Michigan governor faces resistance to calls for closure amid COVID-19 surge. So we knew this was going to happen. We knew as fast as they start opening places up, locations are closing. You can even go online and see companies that are closing again because damn near all the employees are sick. Remember, the UK variant is very fast moving, okay? And it's more deadlier than the virus that we had a year ago in March 2020. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is urging high schools in the state to voluntarily suspend in-person classes, all youth sports games, and indoor dining and gatherings for 2 weeks in her state, which it leads the nation in COVID-19 cases, but some organizations are pushing back. As we take a hard look at the data and observe the spread of the variants, we all need to go above and beyond the rules we already have in place, Whitmer said at a Friday news conference. We all have to step up our game for the next 2 weeks to bring down rising cases. Restrictions, which she stressed are not mandates, come as cases rise across Michigan, making it the country's latest virus epicenter. The state reported 7,834 new COVID cases on Friday. One factor for the surge is a rise in cases for teenagers and children. Exactly. It is striking the kids now. It's striking children and teenagers. And we didn't see a lot of big surges among children when everything locked down in 2020. And so that left the impression, okay, well, it's not going to impact the young. But now that these variants are here, children are being heavily impacted now. So once was not so true, in the beginning, it wasn't very many children. It was a lot of older people. But now, no, it's the children. It's the young this time around. So since February 19th, state data shows that the virus cases for children under 10 jumped 230% which is higher than any age group. Residents aged 10 to 19 saw a 227% increase in infections during the same period. Young people are not, so they're not above getting this thing, y'all. They're not. So when people say, "Oh, well, they can go back to school," the young, they're not getting it. That's simply ain't true. 230%. That is huge. She advised high schools to temporarily transition to remote classes and for restaurant goers to eat outside or opt for carry out instead. The governor also pushed for small gatherings to be held outside with all individuals wearing masks and that all youth sports halt, both games and practices, for the next 2 weeks. Mm-mm-mm. Contact sports in Michigan were allowed to resume on February 8th. 1 month later, individuals aged 13 to 19 were required to test weekly for COVID 19. The Michigan Department of Education backed Whitmer recommendation to delay sports and called on schools to contribute towards the common good of our state and the health of our residents. However, the Michigan High School Athletics Association said all tournaments will be held as scheduled, but individual schools can voluntarily suspend practices and games. We will continue to play as safely as possible, said Mark Yule, an organization executive director. And he said in a statement, the basketball finals will conclude all winter sports as well as finishing all indoor high school sports for the school year. As for indoor dining, which reopened in the state on February 1st, the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association called Whitmer's a suggestion for them to close again misguided and said the governor was using the restaurant industry as a scapegoat without proof or reliable data. Okay, so the surge in your state, you just blind to it, huh? Okay. We trust our operators to continue to provide safe environment indoor or out in the coming weeks, and we trust Michigan to do to do their part, so the residents to do their part and be responsible and help us achieve our outcome. Michigan schools were initially urged to reopen in person they were told back in March 1st, but the state's Department of Education said they support Whitmer's suggestion and called on schools to voluntarily suspend in-person classes. Michigan educators, students, and families have risen to the challenge over the past year, and I am confident they will continue to do so. What is needed to help save lives as we keep fighting the pandemic. State Superintendent Dr. Michael Rice said in a statement at the news conference, Whitmer called on all residents to take her recommendation seriously and to continue following existing COVID-19 protocols like getting vaccinated, wearing a face mask, and social distancing. This has to be a team effort, Whitmer said. We have to do this together. Lives depend on it. We have to fight back against COVID-19 variants. Yeah, well, right now, Michigan is in a lot of trouble with the influx of people getting sick, especially all of these children and teens that are getting sick. And it's not just there, but it's nationwide, ladies and gentlemen, that the young is really getting sick. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this story. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.